Hello guys, welcome back to another game from the Speed Chess Championship organized by chess.com. Aronian and Nakamura just finished their match and Nakamura won as most people predicted. But the interesting story was how Aronian managed to best Nakamura in the bullet portion of the match, even winning 3 games in a row at one point. But anyway, this game that I'm going to show you is from the 5-minute portion. Aronian had the white pieces in this game and he opened with e4. Nakamura responded with e5, knight f3 from Aronian, knight c6, and bishop to c4, the Italian game. Bishop c5 from Nakamura, white castle, knight to f6, d3 defending the pawn on e4, d6 preparing to develop the light square bishop, c3 from Aronian, so at some point preparing to strike in the center with d4, black castle, bishop to g5, the most active square for the bishop, pinning the knight on f6. h6 played by Nakamura. Bishop drops back to h4, a6, so at some point this bishop might drop back to a7 if provoked by white's pawns. So black also has ideas of expanding with b5, maybe even putting the bishop on b7. So knight b to d2 here played by Aronian. Bishop to a7 and king to h1 from Aronian, so stepping out of the pin, maybe preparing to play f4 at some point. Nakamura now plays g5, breaking the pin of this knight. Aronian decided to sacrifice a piece here with knight takes g5. I mean, why not? It's a blitz game and he got to play for the initiative. King g7, just defending the knight on f6. So here Aronian played f4, a very logical move. Just putting pressure on the center, also preparing to open up the f-file for the rook, which would put a lot of pressure on f6. However, this does have the drawback of opening up the g1-a7 diagonal for black's bishop. So this could come back to haunt Aronian. Here rook h8 played from Nakamura. So although the computer thinks this position is even, this is actually quite difficult for white to play, because black has threats of his own, such as knight coming to g4 and rook takes h2. So in this position, white should probably have played h3 just so that this knight g4 move doesn't come with threats of rook takes h2. But here Aronian played the move d4, also very logical, but unfortunately this is an inaccuracy. Because after this e takes d4, Aronian played the move e5. So makes sense trying to attack the pin knight on f6, but here knight to g4 makes life very difficult for Aronian. So immediately threatening this rook takes h2. So if white decides to take on d8, then things could go very wrong for him. After rook takes, then d3 check, rook f2 is the only move, and rook h1 is mate. So here Aronian tried h3. Queen g8 played, and now black is threatening to land a very big fork here on e3. So Aronian played here knight to e4. He decides to give up even more material to mess things up. Knight e3 played by Nakamura. We have queen coming to f3, giving out the bishop on c4. Knight takes c4. Knight f6 from Aronian. So this is still very tricky despite despite Aronian being down 2 pieces. So here if you react normally, for example, you play queen to f8, just getting the queen out of danger. Then white plays queen to g3 and suddenly white has the initiative. Threatening now bishop h4, and then if king to f6, queen to g5 would be mate. So here after this knight to f6, Nakamura reacts very well. He plays bishop takes h3. So here if knight takes g8, then you play bishop to g4 check. And this basically results in pieces being traded down. And black would have an extra piece in a winning endgame. Also white's attack has dissipated. So after bishop takes h3, we have g takes h3 from Aronian. Queen to c8 played by Nakamura. king to h2, defending h3. So here, instead of king to h2, knight to h5 check would have kept things more complicated. If king f8, then bishop f6, attacking the rook. There are also ideas of queen coming to g3, followed by queen to g7. So here, after the move queen to c8, king to h2 played, and then we have knight to d2, forking the queen and the rook. So Aronian played queen to g2, knight takes f1, rook takes f1, and then king to f8, stepping to safety. But surprisingly, this allows Levon some chances. In a sharp position, the tables can easily turn in one's favor. So here, the move that should have been played by Aronian is e takes d6, but I don't blame him because this is a blitz game. So after the recapture, this has to be taken, otherwise, for example, for illustration purposes, let's go bishop c5. Then here white has bishop to h6 check, and then queen g8 is mate. So the knight covers this square, the pawn covers this. A very nice mate. So this has to be taken. But here rook to e1 with the same idea of bishop h6 followed by queen to g8 mate. So black would pretty much have to go knight to e7, and then here white would go knight h7 check. After that is taken, then bishop takes e7, king e8, then bishop takes d6, discovered check, king d8, just to keep the attack on h3, but here queen g8 check. This picks up the rook, and white will continue to have good chances against the black king. So here, instead of playing this, e takes d6, Aronian played, in this position, he played f5, just to close up the attack on h3. So knight takes e5 from Nakamura, and knight to d5, with some ideas of going bishop f6, and if rook g8, then bishop to e7 check. So Nakamura played queen to d7, just protecting the square, and he is ready to give up his queen to halt white's attack. So here bishop to e7 played, Nakamura gave up his queen, and now Levon tries to grab as many pawns as he can. Queen takes b7, queen takes a6, d takes c3, queen b5 check, king c8, b takes c3, and bishop b6, just opening up this rook. So black has a rook in this position and two minor pieces for the queen, which is more than enough. And also his king has found a safe haven on the queen side. So black is definitely better in this position. Queen to e2 played, just protecting a2. And now rook to a4, preparing to double with rook h to h4. Aronian played queen to g2. And now Nakamura finishes off the game quite nicely. Plays knight to g4 check, king h1, knight to e3, winning more material, queen to c6. And here rook takes h3 from Nakamura, and Aronian resign. Because after king to g1, rook takes a2, the king is stepping into a very dangerous diagonal. Nakamura is threatening a bunch of discoveries with this knight, and this basically should be over. So that was a very sharp game, but entertaining game from both players. So as usual, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to like, share and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching and see you soon.